Are there any updates on the science perspective? Anything you can tell our viewers? Any latest news?
Well, of course, there's always the latest news in the sense that there's always new discoveries and things like, another dinosaur species has been found and those kinds of things. Um, I would say that, of course, if you were to get my newsletter, I have been including many items in the last year or so, each month, something that is a problem with this concept of having an all electric transportation system. The things that are negative about EVs. And in my most recent newsletter, one of the things that I pointed out was that they have finally realized that we don't have enough copper to do it.
Right.
People don't realize how much copper it takes to do these kinds of things. But when you talk about windmills, I saw a lot of windmills in Scotland when I was there last year. And it takes 10 tons of copper for a windmill on the land, but it takes 20 tons of copper if you're going to put one out in the ocean.
Wow.
And the fact of the matter is, we don't have enough copper for all this electric vehicle. We don't have the grid, of course. We don't have the power sources to produce that much energy. A lot of things that are very negative. They weigh too much. They tear up the roads too fast. They cause more pollution than gasoline and diesel. A lot of things that people don't think about. But the most recent one was that we simply don't have enough copper in the world. We'd have to have more copper mined than has been mined in all of human history.
It's interesting as well because we previously had talked about the electric cars, and one of the things I remember you telling us as well is the weight of the electric cars, and it's even a concern for some of the parking garages as well because they couldn't basically hold the weight of these new electric cars.
Well, that's just it. An average-sized car weighs 1,000 pounds, a half a ton more than an equal gasoline one, and therefore they're wearing the roads faster, and they're wearing the tires faster, and the particulates that come from the tires when they wear off stay in the air instead of going to the ground, and they get into your lungs. And so actually, you're going to get a black lung disease from tires that are being worn off too fast because we're using EV vehicles.
Wow. So I take it you haven't got an EV vehicle, Grady?
You are so right.
All right.
Now, I do have a hybrid, but it's the kind that doesn't plug in.
Right,
It's the kind that
self-charging.
produces its own. It's a self-charging type of thing, four-cylinder gas engine and electric battery, but it's a very small battery compared to one that would be required, say, for a Tesla.
So if there are any of our viewers watching and maybe they're actually considering buying an electric vehicle, you would recommend more towards a hybrid?
Absolutely. Far better gas mileage than gasoline only, but the battery is not lithium, which can catch fire. Takes 10 times the water to put out a lithium battery fire when a car burns up than it would, say, a
Wow.
car fire for a gasoline engine. And again, you don't have the heavy weight. I said that particularly older parking garages would probably have a few collapse simply because if you take 1,000 pounds times 500 vehicles, it's beyond the stress point of some of the older parking garages. So they pollute more. And they do because, after all, the electricity has to be produced somewhere. It's going to come from fossil fuels. The windmills and so forth are not going to be sufficient. They're not reliable. You have to build an 85% backup for these windmills. We should be going to, of course, nuclear power right now. That would be the cleanest and best. And finally, in the United States, we're starting to look at new nuclear power plants again.